This was supposed to be a joyous time. Neighbors say many people had gathered to celebrate Juneteenth when things took a violent turn. Surveillance video capturing what appears to be a barrage of gunfire. Shortly after, you see people running for cover. Chicago police were called.
Stop scrolling. A packed neighborhood celebration just turned into an absolute war zone in a matter of seconds, and the raw footage is terrifying. Watch what happens when this red SUV pulls up to the crowd.
To 95th in Princeton after a mass shooting around 11 Friday night in the city's Princeton Park neighborhood. At least 13 people were injured.
244 West 95th Street. I need crowd control.
Chicago police say a red SUV pulled up to a large crowd. Investigators say two suspects began shooting from inside the car before taking off.
Wait, did you catch that? Look at the immediate, frantic waves of movement right after those first shots break the silence. What you're looking at is pure, unfiltered survival instinct kicking in. People were out there on a holiday, trying to enjoy the night with their neighbors and families, and out of absolutely nowhere, a vehicle rolls up and completely shatters the peace. This wasn't some minor altercation. We're talking about a coordinated, devastating attack on a massive crowd of unsuspecting people. Notice how the police presence has to flood the zone immediately after? It's complete and utter chaos. What frustrates me so deeply is how normal this is becoming for these communities. The residents are left completely traumatized, dealing with the aftermath while the politicians just prepare their next PR statement. To think that 13 people were injured in this single flashpoint is staggering. We need to stop looking away from these harsh, uncomfortable realities and start asking the hard questions about public safety and how these cities are actually being run.
Your raise.
What do I think? I have to talk to Kennedy's not asking any questions, but thank you. But I can answer questions for Kennedy.
Yes.
We're not going to discuss that, sir. We're really not. It's not relevant nor appropriate.
Do you think that when she said fuck the police that was relevant? If to maybe police.
Now check out this interaction right here. Look closely at the body language of the mayor's senior aide. She is literally dodging the camera, ducking out, and basically running away from a completely valid question on a public sidewalk. This is the exact person tasked with advising the city on public safety and community policing. When confronted directly about her own highly controversial past statements regarding law enforcement, her immediate reaction is to completely bail. Just look at the sheer panic in the eyes of the staff trying to run interference for her. It's absolutely wild because you'd think high-level city leaders would want to stand tall, own their positions, or at least have a coherent answer for the citizens paying their salaries. Instead, we get this frantic, embarrassing retreat. How are you supposed to manage a major metropolitan city experiencing this level of severe street violence when your top advisors are literally running from reporters in broad daylight? If you're a resident watching this, it doesn't inspire a single ounce of confidence.
Well, look, thank you for the question.
Yeah,
I mean, in
please.
terms of the priority around, safety, it is still my top priority.
Yeah.
Look, we have a couple of things that are going. You're not going to interrupt me.
No.
Okay, thank you. With everything that's going on in our city and our country, particularly around community safety, it's why we were incredibly disappointed that Donald Trump cut $800 million.
Look at the tension right here. Did you see how quickly the mayor snaps at the reporter asking a tough question? You're not going to interrupt me. It is a massive tell when a leader loses their composure the second they are pressed on actual, tangible safety results. Instead of offering a concrete plan or taking direct responsibility for the fact that a holiday weekend turned into a bloodbath, he immediately pivots. He deflects the conversation away from local governance and tries to blame federal budgets and political rivals from years ago. It's the ultimate political sleight of hand. When you are the mayor of a city facing a crisis of this magnitude, the citizens don't care about the political blame game. They care about whether their kids can walk down the block without catching a stray bullet. Watching him aggressively shut down the press while the city is hurting just shows a complete disconnect from the reality on the ground. True leadership requires taking the heat, not just passing the buck.
approximately 25 shell casings, both rifle and pistol rounds, from 243 West 95th all the way to the end of the block on Princeton.
The victims' ages range from 17 to 47 years old and were taken to different hospitals. A 26-year-old man was last listed in critical condition. The majority of the victims are expected to recover from their injuries.
All of a sudden, you hear this loud ba 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 ba. I can hear the rapid fire of gunfire. And I said, oh no, can't be. And next thing I know, you hear the sirens.
Michael Blount was home at the time of the shooting. He says he's disappointed it happened at a time when people were looking to celebrate the holiday.
It was a shame that it happened on Juneteenth. This was.
Pause and just look at the ground right here. Look at the sheer terrifying volume of those shell casings. We are talking about dozens of distinct casings from both rifles and handguns scattered across an entire residential block. This wasn't a random warning shot. This was a tactical level of firepower, unloaded in a neighborhood where families sleep. When you see yellow crime scene tape stretching that far down the avenue, it really puts the scale of the destruction into a grim perspective. Every single one of those little metal casings represents a bullet that tore through a crowd of defenseless people. It's absolutely chilling when you realize exactly how much ammunition was spent in a matter of seconds. This is the brutal reality the local residents wake up to. A street littered with the evidence of a war zone instead of normal neighborhood life. It's easy to read a sterile statistic on a news ticker and keep scrolling, but seeing the physical remnants of the gunfire spread out like this makes it impossible to ignore the severity of the crisis.
As a husband, as a brother, as a cousin, just as a resident, it is heartbreaking. It is difficult to even digest and consume. There are too many families who have experienced loss in this city.
Chicago police are still investigating this shooting and say so far no one is in custody. Reporting.
Watch how the narrative shifts here. We get the classic rehearsed political script. As a father, as a husband. It sounds incredibly empathetic on the surface, but when you look at the actual outcomes, it feels incredibly hollow. Citizens are exhausted by these perfectly manicured statements that don't actually lead to any measurable change on the streets. Heartbreak and condolences are expected, but they aren't a strategy to stop the violence. When the cameras are rolling, you get the sympathetic tone, but as we saw earlier, when pressed for actual accountability, the administration either runs away or snaps at the press. It's a masterclass in political survival over actual community safety. The disconnect between the polished press podium and the blood on the street is massive. The people living in these crosshairs don't need another apology tour or another speech about how difficult things are to digest. They need actionable security. They need the violence to stop so they can actually live their lives. What do you think needs to change first? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next breakdown.